Let's add the WordPress search form to our website. You can see if I open the sidebar.php file, you have this get template bar search form. If I open the search form, we have this. So let's copy this code, and I'm gonna open the header.php file. Scroll here in the wrapper, I'm gonna paste this get template bar search form. Then we reload and we got the search form right here. So the next step is to add some CSS. I'm gonna open again the search form and I'm gonna change this. Well, let's add a div here, and I'm gonna add search form. So we can style this with CSS, something like this. Okay, let's open the style.css, and right after this feature image, let's add search form. And we're gonna add search form, the selector, the div that we have created. Let's add a margin 20 pixels and 0, because you can see it's really well tied to the slider, so we have some space. Next, I'm gonna copy the same selector, so we add form. We're gonna add position relative for this. Let's add search form, then the input, then we add a comma. So we're gonna style the input form input, and then focus. When you click in the form, this is the focus statement or the focus state. So since this is mobile first, let's work thinking that the screen is this size. So I'm gonna add width 100%, then go to border 2 pixels solid, and let's add E1. Let's add a border radius of 10 pixels, and let's add a height of 30 pixels. So let's save and reload. We have something like this. You can see that the border radius at the corners of this input are little round. So let's add more code. I'm gonna add search form, and I want this input to be in this part. So I'm gonna add search form, and if I inspect the element, you can see that this one, or if I open this search form, you can see this one is a button with the search submit class. So we can work with that. Search submit, and I'm gonna add this as position absolute because we added this as relative. So we're adding this as absolute. Let's add something like top 0 and right 0. So let's save and reload. We have the input in this part. So let's continue working. I'm gonna add the right at -6 pixels. 6 pixels. So we place this right there. Let's add a height of 35 pixels. So we have taking the full height. And I think I'm gonna add one more pixel right there. Okay, I think this is looking better. Okay, let's add a background color. And the background color for this, we're gonna be using the same orange that we have here. So let's close this. You can see that we have there the search button. You can see we have this border, so let's remove that. Border none. And also outline none, in case some of the browser adds an outline. You can see that it's looking better. But the search word is in black, so let's change that to white. Color FFF. You can see it's working. But here you can see we have this border radius on the left, and since we put this button at the top, we can see the border radius here. So let's add a border radius in this part and also here at the bottom. So let's add something like border top right radius. So it's not right, it's bottom. 10 pixels, and let's add border top. And it was right radius, and it wasn't wrong. 10 pixels. So now we have this border radius here on the following this input. So if I make this bigger, you can see that the input is really big, and I don't like that. I want a small input. So I'm gonna create a new media query, media only, screen, and min width. Let's add a min width for this 668 pixels. And let's add this input. We're gonna add something like a width of 30%. So you can see we have this 30%. Also, let's add something like a float right, because you can see we have this search at this point, and we have this flow to this. So you can see now we have the search at the right, but we have to clear this float. So I'm gonna open again header.php, and here on the search form I'm gonna add clear. So we have successfully added this clear. So when we make this smaller, you can see that the input is bigger. If I make this bigger, the input is smaller. So another thing that you have to see is if I click here, it adds this as 100%, because this is the focus, the state, and you can see it's adding at 100%. So I'm gonna copy this, and I want this as with 50%. So let's save and reload. Now you can see if I click here, the input is bigger, but well, I think this looks awful. So I'm gonna create a small transition for this. I'm gonna add transition, and the transition for this is gonna be width that 3 seconds is in out. We're gonna add this effect. So I can click here, and you can see it adds, or it expands when I click on the input and try to add something. So I'm gonna copy this transition, and let's add the prefix for this. Let's add WebKit. Next one is called Moz for Mozilla, and finally O for Opera. So nothing is gonna change, but you can see we added this search form. If I click here and click Paris, you can see that we have a mess in the search result page, but we're gonna fix that in the next video.